FPO policy order and ask for a motion to approve.
Move. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Item 3, public comment on FPO actions. Do we have anybody else to comment, Bill?
I don't believe so.
All right. So item 4, that would be report and vote on the executive director search consultant's contract. I will run through the slides here and then we will get into discussion. So as background, again, as you all will recall, in November, this committee asked and voted to engage a search consultant to manage the process. RFPs from 3 responses, and the top one that in the committee's mind was to the top and in partnership with Daimler and Company. The search committee is listed there on the screen as well. Go to the next screen. So again, we said that the highest responses from to the top and Diana Daimler. We've done 29 with both Cassandra and Diana to review their proposal. All invited to participate. We had 3 of you join us with the search committee. After that discussion, we elected to move ahead with the first steps ahead of a formal vote on this because of the time constraints that we had with regard to the process itself. And obviously you got the email from me starting the survey with some questions on the process. So the contract with to the top and Diana would be to provide the project launch, which is obviously already started. We went ahead and started that given the time frame that we were working with. Then we do a research and analysis, the search process itself, and then ultimately leading to candidate selection. The core scope of those services would be 32.5. That excludes though what we've already expended in the last few weeks, which is an additional $5,000. What they've already done to date. Ahead of that, again, we've authorized that given the fact that we wanted to go ahead on this. So there are also some alternatives that would add-ons to the base core of the contract of the 37.5. Those would be employment contract negotiation for 2,000, media tactics addition, and also an all-staff salary analysis. We had some in-depth discussion on this yesterday at the executive committee. I looked at this. The contract negotiation, I think would be highly recommended because we need some outside help to work with the final person that we identified for the job to negotiate that contract. The number 3 is something, as you can see with the asterisk, has not been done for a while, so we feel that this is also something that should be done as well while we're going through the process. On number 2, I think there was consensus even from Diana and Cassandra that we probably do not need to engage in that at this point. So the recommendation from the executive committee to the policy committee would be to enter into the contract with To the Top and Diana Daimler, and that would be for the base contract price of 37.5, and then the 2 additional add-ons of the contract negotiation and the all-staff salary analysis. So then for a total of $47,000. I know I went through that pretty quickly. Cassandra and Diana are both here to answer any questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know we have a number of folks in the room today that were also on the discussion yesterday, and we'd be happy to answer any questions or have any comment on that at this point.
I don't know. One thing I'd say, Mr. Chairman, is that the process I think was extremely good. The initial search committee, of course, we had the surveys that we all filled out. I actually, I think maybe we probably all did. I filled out my survey, and Daimler Company came up top after my survey process that I sent in. And so I guess I assumed this is on me, it's on the search committee. I didn't come to the meeting the day the search committee was going to select, and the search committee made a decision to not go a different direction, but just to do something internally or whatever. And that was overturned by the FPO policy committee, which is okay. I know that's how that process works. I just think as we move ahead, and I totally support this resolution. You chairman, you appoint folks off the full policy committee to serve on subcommittees to do the work or what have you. And I'm not saying the policy committee's got total say-so at the end of the day. I totally get that. Disappointed that it overturned as far as what our decision process was, but that's the way the process works, and I totally understand that. But I support what is being proposed here.
All right, thanks, Tom. Any other discussion?
No other discussion, I'll move item 4.
Second.
As with the add-ons that we talked about,
All the add-ons that we talked about and recommended. by the
1 and 3 and not 2.
1 and 3 and not 2.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, that motion carries. Thank you. Then next would be to, item 5 would be to discuss the decision-making authorities with regard to this process moving forward. And for that, I'm gonna ask Cassandra to kind of outline that and work through that, as we move forward on this. So, we're gonna obviously have the contract now in place, but we need to discuss the time working through the process and how that would work. So Cassandra, I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. On behalf of myself and Diana, we're excited to be here and be leading your process and be officially have our contract today. So thank you for that. One comment I do want to note, speaking to the survey that we are wrapping up officially tomorrow, we have had a phenomenal response through that process and have all of the responses in as of today. So we are working through all of that feedback. The reason that we recommended not doing option 2, I put back one here. There was one question, if you recall, in the survey about helping us distribute the actual posting of the position once we have that ready. Recognizing that we have a very tight time frame for promoting the position, we know that we are going to have the highest level of success with partnership with the policy committee, with the TTC, and with the staff in actually distributing the position and getting that notice out. The response to that question in particular was that we have a lot of support from the policy committee and the TTC in helping us get the word out about the position. That is why we did not recommend actually having to do the additional cost for the media tactics. So I'm coming out of the gate telling you that we are going to emphasize that, and we're going to hold you accountable to that in this process, that help in making sure that we promote the position once we get to that step. So that brings me to, as we talk about decision-making authorities and wanting to have transparency in this process. Again, I'm going to emphasize our very aggressive timeline and wanting to move through this process and have very open communication, very open discussion about how we can be effective and efficient in meeting all of our timelines. In order to do this, we wanted to make sure that everybody understands how quickly we are going to move and getting organized and getting all of our information out and available to the search committee and to the policy committee. So I'm going to touch on a lot of the handouts you have in front of you. They're not necessarily, I'm not going to put everything on the screen here, but everything that you've had made available to you. So a couple of things that I want to reference. In the scope of work, we have 2 steps. The first 2 steps. Step 1 is the research and analysis that you're seeing here in December, capturing insights and completing the research and updating the job description and drafting the job posting. And then you can see in January, posting and publicizing the job opportunity. That's action step 1 and action step 2. And when you see that very broadly up here on the simplified version, all of that work will be done by January 8th when we actually post the position. So when you think today is December 14th, okay? In less than 30 days, we are going to have all of this work done. On February 5th, we are going to convene the search committee, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in just a second. And then February 15th, we are hoping to be ready and interviewing the finalists and presenting the finalists for a recommended offer for the policy committee. So again, moving very quickly. And then in March, at the end of February, we'll be in contract negotiations with a targeted start date for the new executive director of April 1st. So there are a lot of pieces that have to line up for us to be able to meet all of these milestones in our timeline. So to be effective with that, we wanted to recognize and lay out all of the things that we need to accomplish here in the next 3 weeks in order to put all of those pieces in order. I'm gonna pause for 1 second. There is another survey that we have been running parallel, another piece of the work that we have been doing in addition to surveying all of you to capture details that we need in order to update the job description, which is we have already salary and benefit analysis. So we have been capturing information around central Iowa as well as with regional peers. So we can bring back to you good research and data about a competitive salary and wage and benefit package. That is really important as we need that information to go along with all of this as well. So we have all of that running parallel right now too. So in order to do all of this and meet those timelines, we recognize that the policy committee meets once a month, but we have some critical decision points that need to happen in order to be able to post the job description, or to post the position. We need to update and approve the job description. We need to make sure that we have an approval of a posted salary range. Again, I just want to make some distinctions here. Not what we're going to offer the position, but a range from within makes sense that we can work with the position. Approval of the interview process and questions, because we will be working to screen the candidates as we come in. We're going to be doing some intro interviews to get to the panel of finalists for the actual in-person interviews, the recommendations of the finalists so we can be ready for the 15th. Then you can see the approval of the finalists and preliminary offer is something that will land in the policy committee column where we'll bring everybody back together. That will happen on the 15th. With permission from the policy committee of that preliminary offer, that will give us a range to work within in negotiating with the selected candidate. And then once we have an accepted contract with the finalists, it will come back to the policy committee for approval, if that makes sense. So what we're asking for in this proposed decision-making authority is that the policy committee authorize the search committee to be able to navigate the things in the left-hand column. So a couple of caveats with this. We will be communicating along the way. So we will be sharing the draft of the job description. We will be sharing all of that information and inviting your input along the way. But we need the search committee to have the authority to allow us to post it so that we can maneuver and maintain the timeline. So I'll pause and.
Can you get out that way?
What's that?
Can you get out that way or no? You got wet
Mark, can you-
concrete. I
Mark,
came on
you-
that frontage road over there, the dirt one.
I want to hear the rest of it. I do too. Just hold off. I want to hear that conversation.
Someone needs to mute.
We took care of it.
Okay, I just got a couple things. So are you proposing that one meeting would take care of all of those items for the search committee to make a decision? Now, the only reason I ask that is because, an example, approval of interview process / questions. Number one, I'm familiar with the firm, and the reason that I rated them the highest with the responses that we had, we're able to give, is because you're totally familiar with what the MPO does. The only firm that responded that is totally familiar with what our role is in the metro. So to that, for me, that's really getting in the weeds. I mean, you guys, what you're doing, I don't know that I need to approve the questions that you ask a candidate. But I know that's professional and all that, but for me, that's really getting in the weeds, but that's up to y'all.
So, two-part answer to that question. Again, we want full transparency. We want you to know what kind of information we're going to be collecting from the candidates, because that's part of, what's gonna be in the candidate analysis report that we're gonna bring back to you. So you can understand how we're vetting these candidates that we're gonna
Sure.
recommend to you for the final interview process.
Sure.
So.
No, I'm not asking you to defend the process.
Oh, no.
No, that's not what I'm asking you to do.
Nope. So the two parts to the interview process is, we want you to see the questions that we're gonna be asking in the vetting process.
Okay.
And that will happen on January 8th. The second round of interview questions that you will see will be for the in-person interview process. That will happen on February 5th, before the in-person interviews.
15.
That, you'll see the questions though on the 5th. And then, the in-person interviews are slated for February 15th.
For me, it's very helpful to have that open communication piece where at least we're all aware where we're at and what some of those decisions have been as the process moves along. Not that we all need input into that process, but to have that understanding and, as you said, the transparency of knowing where we're at in the process. So,
We've heard that, and I appreciate those comments. We've heard that. We will communicate, as Cassandra said, we will communicate all of this in real time as much as we can, as we put this out, but just given the time frame, we do need to move forward if we're gonna keep the schedule.
Yes.
Will the search committee be the interview panel?
For the initial one, yes, but we're, with some, with caveats, and I'll have Cassie identify that too, so.
So a couple more things that I will share. This is a question directly from the survey. Just as a reminder, we shared what our strategy was for communication, making sure that you know that you will receive an update following every meeting of the search committee, and then you will be here for every policy committee meeting in person, so we can share that information with you. And 100% of the responses from the policy committee felt that that was an adequate amount of communication from our team. Secondly, there was a note on this request that in addition to this, something at least at a minimum of every 2 weeks would be helpful. The only time frame that we have where we aren't meeting every 2 weeks is this time frame in December. So we will make sure that even in this time frame of December that we give you something in the meantime. So we are in the process, and I didn't want to share this until after we got through today and we had policy committee affirmation on decision-making authority and some other aspects here. But I wanted to give you a sneak peek of what our search process scope of work will look like. So this is our we are building the scope of work, which will have every task-oriented step, what process we're in, and a reminder of where the decision-making is needed. So you don't forget where the search committee role is at, where the policy committee role is at, and where we are gonna need each of you in this process. So you'll have timely communication here. In the 2 weeks, this will likely be the communication that you get from us is this report. So you'll be able to see this along the way.
is it time where we could move this?
Yeah. I mean,
Let's-
we also did talk about, you might want to share that as we go through the you can talk about the rest of it as we go through the process.
Yeah.
That the policy committee's welcome included. We want to hear from them as part of the executive committee and the search committee. They just need to show up.
We received some feedback as well through the survey. I wanted you to see some pretty direct comments that we received. So we shared these with the executive committee yesterday as they evaluated the proposed decision-making authority. And a couple of adjustments we made to the process was to actually open the meeting up on February 5th. As the candidate analysis report is reviewed, that will be open to all policy committee members to observe and share your thoughts. And then again, transitioning the candidate interviews to February 15th is another step that we are making. We're talking about doing, I'm gonna fast forward here to February. So we have an ask for you already. We're making some assumptions for February 15th as our interview date. So I am asking everyone today, in lieu of being ahead of the process, to mark February 15th on your calendar and reserve it for this process. We have had an ask to have kind of a meet and greet process along with the candidate interviews on the 15th. Our goal is to be able to interview all 3 candidates, have the meet and greet built into the process, have the search committee prepare the recommendation for the policy committee, and align that with your meeting on the 15th so that the policy committee can evaluate the proposed recommended offer, act on that, and allow the search committee then to make their offer to the candidate on the 16th. There are a lot of reasons to pair these things together. It keeps the integrity of the process. We're still working on all of the logistics, obviously, but we need to know your availability. And in order to make all of this work, we need to know that this is something that the entire policy committee wants and that you can be present to participate. So those are the 2 adjustments that we made to process, but it doesn't change the authority in the
Yeah.
decision making.
So at least to your point, that will be open to.
Yep.
All right. You want to make a motion now?
Yeah, move it.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, if not, all in favor say aye.
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 Sign. Abstentions? All right, that carries. Thank you. Thanks, Cass and Diana. We look forward to the process, so thank you. All right, item 6, report and vote on the employee remote work arrangement.
No, thank you. Last month when we met, we talked to you about this scenario where we currently have a situation where Zach Young, our planning manager, is working remotely as an employee, full salary employee with a remote work agreement that expires at the end of this month. The policy committee agreed to move forward, transitioning Zach to a consultant at the end of the year, and continues on with that through 2024. We've taken action. I've worked with legal counsel and Zach to draft a contract that is all underway and working fine. Because we have a consultant now, though, we need to amend our work program. That's a requirement that's just a federal requirement we have to go through. And in conversing with Federal Highway and Federal Transit, they did have concerns about the procurement process or lack thereof, because it was just decided that Zach would be a consultant. So I guess one thing and this all happened last Friday, so we were kind of working through this as an agenda went out. If you go to the next slide, there are basically 3 options for how we can move forward. And I do want to note that this has kind of been resolved in a way, so we can continue moving forward with the arrangement that was voted on last month. We just have to ensure that we pay Zach with local funds. And I do want to assure you that we have enough local funds that we can make that happen, still draw down all of our federal funding and not dip into our reserves. And I did mention in the agenda packet that was a concern that we dip into reserves. We've since studied that a little bit further. That's not going to be the case. If that wasn't going to be possible, we could continue with the salary employee or issue an RFP and go through a formal procurement process. But again, option 1 is what we would recommend to staff. That's what the executive committee recommended. And that works with Federal Highway, Federal Transit, and Iowa DOT. So if everybody's comfortable with that, that's what we would recommend. That still would require a work program amendment. If you go to the next slide, there are a couple of other things that while we're amending the budget and the work program, we can also do at the same time. These would catch up on some past actions that the board's made over the last 6 months. Last month, we amended the data bike pavement management analysis contract with Intrans to increase that amount by $10,000. So we've updated that. Back in August, we approved the handbook that changed some starting paid time off. That has an effect on the budget, as well as we amended the transload agreement that removes some funding that the MQ anticipated in the original agreement. And then the other thing is what you all just approved, the contract for the search firm. We had a $20,000 placeholder. Now that we know what the full cost is, we can amend the budget to incorporate all of that too. So again, while we're updating the budget, we thought it would just be prudent to amend all these things at once. With that, that's our recommendation. If there's any questions, have to take them. This will be the final hurdle. We need to do everything you want to do to make Zach a consultant moving forward.
Refresh my memory, what's the term of the agreement?
The terms of the agreement with Zach,
The length,
the length would be through the full calendar year 24.
calendar year 20, okay. That's what I assumed, but okay. I'll move it.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All fair say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Abstentions? All right, that motion carries. Thank you. Anything else? All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for taking time today to do this.
Great,